Josh, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
It goes well, man.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you very much for taking some time to do this interview.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
Well, it's great to be able to talk to you and be able to talk about some brand music that's so close on the horizon now. I've gotten the chance to be able to check out this album over the past week, and it's just great to see you guys back. I really love the fun of this album. I love the diversity that's going on, whether it gets super heavy, whether you go into country territory, whether you go into classic rock territory. It's so much fun, and especially on that first listen, you never know where it's going to go. And to me, those are always the most exciting albums.
I really appreciate that you picked up on that because that's exactly what we go for. I learned a very long time ago that nobody gives a shit. And we used to spend a lot of time worrying about whether or not something was us. You know what I mean? Whether or not a certain sound was us, whether or not a certain song was us. And the more I've learned about some of my favorite bands, and the more I've learned about the fleeting nature of music and entertainment, and indeed life itself, the more I realize that nobody fucking cares. So you should just make whatever you want to make. And so we really do set out to just make fun records, make fun shows, make fun as one makes love. We just want to have a good time, and I'm really glad that comes through on the record, because that's exactly what we are going for. So thank you for noticing.
Oh, absolutely. So, with that in mind, I mean, how does it feel to have this album coming out already tomorrow?
Well, here's the funny thing: is it has taken, if you include the time that we spent doing demos of these songs, if you include the initial inception of these ideas, it's been close to 10 years. And, a lot of kids and death and setbacks and disappointments and everything that is attendant with a usual record. Plus, there was that whole thing that happened where we had to go inside for 2 years, and breakups with bandmates and so much. And even still, we're on the precipice of putting this thing out. And I don't know if you know, but vinyl turnarounds are incredibly long right now. It takes forever to put a record out. So I want to say that we first submitted the masters in October of last year. And even now, and this is after we told the manufacturer, hey, we want to make sure that we book the venue that we want. We want to do the Bluebird Theater in Denver. You tell me what would be enough time to get the record out. And I gave them a date, and they said, no, that's cutting it too close. And I said, okay, you tell me what won't be cutting it too close. And they said July. I said, okay. And I booked the show. And now I am here waiting for UPS to show up with the records at the very last minute. We have a show tonight, and I am waiting for UPS to show up as we speak, sans jackets, because there's a supply chain issue with printing the jackets as well. So we're actually going to have to get people's addresses and send them the jackets to the record, even 10 years later. Like, it just doesn't stop. So how am I feeling? I'm feeling, oh my God, I'm feeling like I've been driving in a car with the doors welded shut, having to take a piss, and I can't get out and take a piss until I get to a certain place where someone with the jaws of life can cut me out of the car. Like, I can't even stop at the side of the road. I have to get to a city with jaws of life and have someone cut me out of the car. It has taken so long to do this. So I'm excited, and I'm like, I feel like crying, and I am simultaneously over it, and I am exhausted and exasperated, and just like, there's so many emotions that are going with it. But we got together last night. I picked up Tony, our guitar player, from the airport. and we went directly to rehearsal, and we did a 9 to midnight rehearsal last night, and we played the whole set, the whole 21 songs that we have planned for the record release show. And I expected us all to be griping about how late it was, because we're old guys with kids and families now, you know what I mean? So I expected us all to be griping about how late it was. I expected us all to be tired, and we were just wired and happy and joking around and goofing off and singing and had so much fun just being together, and looking forward to this weekend and playing these songs and finally getting to talk to people about it, like like, it ain't cheap to hire a publicist. And I have a publicist in the US and a publicist in Europe, and then I'm kind of acting as a publicist here locally in Colorado. And with everything that went into making this happen, I'm just like, man, I don't know if I'll ever go this hard on a record again, but God damn it, we put so much into this. It deserves its day in the sun, and we're gonna put everything we can into this. I'm so thrilled. So thrilled.
And I'm so happy to see, like, through all those trials and tribulations, that the excitement is still there. Like, just seeing the whole
Absolutely.
band together and being able to play, getting ready for shows, the record release show, any potential shows that happen in the future. It's just like it's these kinds of songs definitely deserve that live recognition and promotion. And I'm glad to see that with all of it, that you just didn't completely give up, that you wanted to get these songs out there, you wanted the band to keep going and to keep going into the future.
Well, the thing is, and I will admit to this, especially during 2020, 2021, I thought about quitting every single day. But I am an obsessive completionist. So I had set up a lot of work, and I was not going to leave unfinished work on the table. And so I kept telling myself, well, once I finish this, then I'll write my letter of resignation, and I'll write my big farewell post, and I'll go, live in a cabin in the woods with my family somewhere or something like that. And, but then we came out and we did our first show back in February of last year. And we opened for the Coffin Cats at the Gothic Theater, and it was our first show in 2 years. And just getting together and getting on stage and playing with the dudes, I mean, it was just amazing. And it was so good to see everybody. And it reminded me, like, oh yeah, I fucking love this. Like, I love this. This is my favorite thing to do. This is getting together with my buddies and whatnot. And then we've been going out of town and doing some shows. We went and did Oklahoma City. And then we just did, back in March, we did the Planet Mammoth Festival with Bongzilla and Ugly and a bunch of other really, really, who else was on that? Greenbeard was on it. Just Great Electric Quest, tons of amazing bands. And we were the very last band of the very last day. And it was just so fun to be with everyone, be with the crowd, be with my guys. And now it's like, getting through the tough times, like, it's like a carrot and stick thing. The stick was this thing whipping me, going, you got to finish what you start, get it done. You're not going to leave work on the table, you fucking pussy. Bam, 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 bam. And then the carrot is, I love hanging out with my buddies, and I love playing our songs together. And kind of the thing that I've been saying a lot for the last couple of years, some guys have some guys are into cars, some guys have bowling leagues, some guys have the bass boat, and they get their buddies together and they go out on the lake and they throw some lines in the water. We've got a rock and roll band, and the band has acted as a life support system for our friendship for over 25 years, all told. And I'm not ready to give that up yet. And yeah, we've been putting out the singles, and pretty much everything that is going to be on this record has come out in single form since 2017. But there is something about the tangibility of a physical record and having it all together in one collection and being able to put it on the merch table and hand it to somebody and being able to do an interview for that physical, tangible piece of media that you don't get, that you don't get in a digital single. It's like if I try to open up the band's old MySpace account, I can't see any of the pictures or any of the shit that we had on there. You know what I mean? I can't even get to any of it. But I have a copy of our very first demo tape in my trunk. It's awful. It's terrible. And I don't want anybody to hear it. I released some of the songs on Patreon, but I don't want anyone to play that. But I have it. I have that physical record. And who knows what's going to happen with Spotify? Who knows what's going to happen with our website? Who knows what's going to happen with Apple Music in another 20 years? But somebody is going to have this record collecting dust on their shelf when their grandkids come over to clear their shit out after they die. You know what I mean? Like, that is going to be there a long time. And I'm really proud and excited about that. I'm really excited to finally be putting this out.
And just thinking about that again, it's just like it's so incredible because considering some of these songs are 10 years in the making, and like you mentioned, people who get the physical releases are going to be able to hang on to them, and they're going to be collecting dust decades to come. And I think the songs are still going to hold up decades to come as well too, because of the styles that are going on throughout it, the fun atmosphere that's going on behind it, and again with like all the aggravation and sorrow and all the things that have happened to you guys personally and around the world. I'm glad to see that mentality is still going strong within the songs, and you still want to be able to have a good time with your friends, playing music, playing for the crowds, and being able to actually give out the records tonight as long as everything goes right, and just being able to see the fans excited to be able to pick up a new record for the first time in such a long time. I mean, that's got to be a gratifying feeling.
Yeah. And, what's really cool about writing and releasing a song is you can't unwrite a song. You know what I mean? You can't, I mean, you can delete all record of it, I suppose, but you can't unwrite it. And there are songs that we didn't play for years because they were just kind of, sitting and waiting to have something done with them. And then when you're getting together and doing rehearsal and you're starting to learn these songs that you recorded however many years ago, it's like, oh yeah, and I said this. And you find yourself laughing at lines that you wrote that you forgot that you wrote. It's like, oh man, that was hilarious. I thought that was so funny when I wrote that. And oh, I remember when we came up with that lick. And oh, I remember that was the tour where we were touring in the Grand Marquis because the van broke down and we were just writing that song in the back seat and Ty was drumming on his legs. And, there's all these attendant memories with it. And there are plenty of things that have slipped from my mind. But once you start relearning a song that you wrote and it starts coming back to you, it's like visiting the place where you fell in love with the love of your life, for the first time in 20 years. It's like going back to the old neighborhood that you grew up in. Just brings back this flood of wonderful memories, and I get to have that every time we're running through this stuff. It's beyond gratifying. It's reaffirming and reorienting. When you're only dealing with your art, your music, or the world through your phone, sitting here on social media, that is so dissatisfying. And that was the hardest thing about 20 and 21, was the only way that we had to engage with each other was through memes and social media and, looking at like and comment counts on stuff that you put out. And that is so disheartening. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I wanted to quit every single day. And now I can't believe that I ever thought that way. And I'm so glad that I didn't, because tonight I get to go drive out to Fort Collins and I get to go play in a room full of sweaty drunk people and play these songs with my friends and crack inside jokes and party a little bit, you know? Especially like I don't drink, I don't do drugs. Like that those days are long behind me. I've been sober for 10 years. So the way I get my rocks off is playing rock and roll shows with my friends. And man, those don't happen as much as they used to. We only get to do it a few times a year. So this is like, you know, going to play a show is the equivalent to me of like going on like a 3-day bender. Like it's gonna be, I'm gonna party my ass off. It's gonna be so much fun. Cannot wait.
Oh,
Cannot wait.
deservingly so as well. So thinking about that as well, like obviously with tonight being such a huge night for the band and having the record release show and everything, like how much time and effort do you go into thinking about the set, like the set list, how everything's going to be presented? How much effort goes into it?
I put a lot of effort into it. So we have, I try to make anytime Tony takes a trip out here, because we have to fly him in and do that, I try to make it as worthwhile as possible without killing everybody. So we usually do 3 shows or so. So tonight we're doing Fort Collins. Tomorrow we're doing Grand Junction. Those are kind of the warm-up gigs. And then Saturday is the big record release show at the Bluebird Theater here in Denver, which is our hometown. So what I try to think about is I try to think about it in terms of how I can make, honestly, one guy the happiest. So we have this fan, his name is Joey, and he's become a very good friend of ours. And sort of our mantra when we are working on anything is we have our own version of WWJD, except instead of what would Jesus do, it's what would Joey dig. So what I do is I try and design a set with Joey in mind. And I'm like, Joey wants a long set. He loves these songs. He wants these moments. These are some of his favorite things that he's told me about. Like, instead of worrying about, oh, am I being too, are we being too indulgent? Are we taking too long? Are people really going to like this song? It's like, who cares? Joey's going to be up front. He's going to be rocking out the entire time. And that is going to be infectious. And anybody else who's there is really going to enjoy it. Another thing is, I'm a big fan of bands that play long sets with a bunch of surprises, that throw in deep cuts, that throw in little Easter eggs and treats for the audience, the bands that really give it up. I'm a gigantic Ween fan, okay? And when Ween did their reunion shows, I went to all 3 of them at the First Bank Center here in Denver. And they played something like 95 songs in 3 days. And they played all these deep cuts and things that they hadn't played in forever. And they played all these crowd favorites. And I'm just watching this show, just taking notes. So when I work on the set list, I'm not only referencing those things, but I'm referencing the data. I'm looking at Apple Music and I'm looking at Spotify and I'm looking at what is our most popular stuff in the last month on those platforms. What's really resonating with people, what's the new stuff, how can we pull off these songs that were more studio tracks? Like you heard the country song on there, Someday I'll Be Better Than You, right?
Oh yeah.
That was originally intended to be more akin to like Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show, Shel Silverstein, kind of weird hippie country type of stuff, right? And we've never played it live, and we're about to debut it live at the Bluebird. And so I'm trying to think of like, okay, how can I make that work live on stage? Equilibrium has so many different things going on sonically in it that it's really hard to execute with just a straight ahead rock and roll band. So it's like, how are we going to do the instrumentation? How are we going to do the arrangement so that this does work live? I'm thinking about ways of going like, instead of just relying on, okay, let's go up and let's play all the bangers and call it a night, trying to go, okay, let's play all the bangers, but then let's also take these songs that we're less likely to want to play live and figure out the best way to make them work. And even if they don't work perfectly, let's figure out how to be okay with doing them kind of shittily on stage, like going out there and allowing for that risk of failure, going out and kind of letting our ass show a little bit. Because I personally have experienced this as an audience member, and I don't know if you get this at all when you go to see a show. I don't want to go see a band where it just sounds like their album is turned up really loud. I want to go see a band where there are human beings playing physical instruments that are making mistakes and having blemishes and cracking jokes and having moments and allowing you to see a window into their relationship. Like, nothing's worse than an amazing band that hates to be there or hates each other. Like, have you ever seen a band where they clearly hate each other or they're clearly not having fun? It's like, dude, give me my fucking money back, dude. I'll go listen to your record at home, and so I can like maintain the fantasy. It's one of the things I love about Iron Maiden. Like, you go see Iron Maiden live, those guys are 100 years old and they are having the best time. Like people were giving Bruce Dickinson some shit not that long ago because he was chastising someone for smoking weed at a show in Orange County. And first of all, he didn't do that in Denver, and people smoke plenty of weed in Denver. So it makes me wonder how much actual weed they were smoking in Orange County at that show. But like, he's this flamboyant and gregarious character, and he's so much fun to watch, and it's so much fun to hear him talk, and it's so much fun to see him antagonize security and the audience, and to see them interact and like cracking jokes that you can't hear, but that they're having like this little private moment. I saw Faith No More, similar thing. You could tell that those guys are actually friends, like the way that Mike Patton and Roddy Bottum would interact together, and just the way that Mike Patton was acting on stage and just being his normal unhinged self. Or another Patton project, I saw Mr. Bungle recently, and I saw the Melvins, and it was just like, dude, human beings on stage relating together, playing the songs that they wrote together. That shit is awesome. Like, why else would you want to go to a concert but to have that experience of like almost, albums are so supernatural in a way that you kind of want that opportunity to step away from the supernatural nature of a precise, impeccable studio album, studio production presentation, and just go see what it sounds like when it's just the guys or gals and their instruments playing those songs in real time. It's remarkable. That's what we go for,
And I'm so glad to hear that too, because I definitely hear it the more that I listen to this album, and of course the previous albums as well too. It's just like seeing the evolution of the band, and constantly getting tighter, constantly feeling like the band is growing stronger, and that's bound to happen the longer that you stay together. More of that bond is gonna form, unless you just start to dissolve. But the fact that you care so much about making sure that it's that intimate kind of show, that you care about the people who you're sharing the stage with, that you care that the crowd is having a good time, that you're picking out the songs that you want to play and what the fans are going to want to play or want to hear, and just making it a fun night of peaks and valleys and not knowing what's going to come next. Because again, like all the reasons that you mentioned, those are the reasons why you go to a show. It's for those moments, those experiences that you're not going to have with just listening to a record at home, or getting a YouTube version of it that sounds so crappy through a cell phone. It's that real live experience, and I'm glad to see that that's continuing strong with you guys.
Well, time and attention are finite resources. Okay, people sacrifice time for money, and they sacrifice time and attention for meaningful experiences. So people are taking their Saturday night to come hang out with us. They are not only sacrificing the time at the concert, they're sacrificing money which they earned through sacrificing their time. So in some ways, they're sacrificing double time, precious moments from their life that could have been spent with their family, sitting on their couch, doing their hobbies, whatever. They are sacrificing that precious resource to hang out with us. And when I see a band on stage that is put out by being there, it's like, how dare you? You know, everybody here sacrificed their lives, part of their lives. You know, they, in some ways, by a matter of fractions, they laid their lives on the line, literally, to be with you. And you're just gonna just sneer at them. Like, how dare you? We take that very seriously, and we hold it with reverence, that it's like, okay, you know, we may not be the most popular band in town, but there's a handful of people who think we're really cool, and we owe it to them, whether there's 3 of them or 300 of them or 3,000 of them, to put on a great professional show, to be entertaining, to be engaging, to be crisp and clean and well rehearsed and charismatic, to include them, to touch them, to make eye contact with them, you know, to share stories with them. And then this was a really important thing. When we went on tour with the Carburetors from Norway, we did a tour with them in Germany, and I'll never forget this. They changed the way that we do show business, because those guys were on from the moment the bus parked to the moment the bus pulled out. Eddie, their singer especially, is just such a charismatic, gregarious, wonderful, kind man. And from the moment, in fact, even on the bus, he was on the bus, you know, with us, you know, just talking and telling jokes and including everybody, and just like such a warm, you know, and it doesn't hurt that the guy's 7 feet tall and got biceps the size of my head, you know, just this action figure of a human being. Like, they would get off stage and they would be like that. They would do the show, and then they would go to the merch table and they would hang out with people and joke around and peel the shirts off their back and give them to people and sign whatever needed to be signed. And then they are literally on the bus with the door open, blowing kisses to people as the bus is pulling away. And I remember asking Eddie about it, and he was like, the show isn't just the time that you're on stage. The show is from the time the bus parks to the time it pulls away. He's like, that's the job. And we came back from that tour, and it totally changed the way that we did shows. Like, we don't hang out in the green room anymore. I go down to the green room to warm up my voice, and that's it, and change, like to put on my jumpsuit or whatever. That's it. Like, the rest of the time, I'm hanging out, I'm hugging people, I'm catching up with them, I'm asking about their lives, I'm at the merch table. Like, I run our merch table, you know, because people they're not buying the t-shirt because they need a fucking t-shirt. If they needed a t-shirt, they'd buy it online, or they'd go to, you know, whatever, Target, who knows, you know, thrift store. They are coming to the table because they want to commemorate the time they gave up to spend with you, you know. And I try to take that seriously, especially because, you know, we as a band and we as a global community have seen firsthand how precious and fragile and fleeting life really can be. And nobody knows how much time they have. And so nobody can really quantify the dollar value of a minute of somebody's time.
It makes so much sense. And again, I love the fact that you guys care so much about that. You care so much about the people that want to come to see you and enjoy the show, buy the merch, want to spend time talking to you before or after the show, everything that goes into it. I love the fact that you guys put so much effort into that. And that's what makes it so exciting to be able to see you guys, you know, like obviously with the 3 shows that are happening this weekend, but anything that's happening in the future as well too. That's like all the more reason for people to be able to support the band, support the new album, and be able to go see you live.
Where are you located, out of curiosity?
I am in Minnesota.
You're in Minnesota. Okay. Well, we'll get out to Chicago eventually. Maybe you could drive out to Chicago sometime and catch a show. That's where Tony lives. So we do try to get out there once a year or so. I love getting out there. We used to play Minneapolis a lot. What is it? The entry?
Oh, 7th Street Entry.
Yeah, 7th Street Entry. We used to play there. We used to play the Uptown before it closed down. We played the Triple Rock before it closed down in Minneapolis. Yeah, man, if we get out there, I'd love to have you out to a show. It'd be great.
Oh, I'd love that. I mean, if I can make it out to Chicago, or if you make it out further, whatever happens, I think it would be such a great time with like everything that you're describing, with all the songs in the catalog, and being surprised by like what could happen. I mean, obviously, playing the songs that are catching people's attention, but the fact that you want to throw in surprises or B-sides or whatever you feel like playing that night, that's all the more reason to go see you guys, because it's gonna be one of those one of a kind shows every time that you go see the band.
Right. No, I mean, and one thing I really miss about touring, because we can't tour as much anymore, is when we were kind of touring on our own, everything was a surprise. You'd go into some town and you didn't know if you were going to be playing for a packed house and have an amazing night, or if it was going to be an absolute nightmare and like a surrealist travesty. You never knew. But either way, you would have a story. You can talk about playing the little tiny bar in Oklahoma City where you're playing for a packed room of people and they're crowd surfing you over the bar, and I'm jumping behind and helping the bartender wash dishes while I'm singing, and people are cheering, and it's this amazing thing and greatest party of your life. Or you're at the blacklight bar in the middle of Southern Oregon somewhere, and everybody's high on meth, and there's a lady who's asleep at the video poker table, and you think that she's dead, and the whole room is black lights and everything looks weird and creepy, and everybody in the audience has their cell phones on with the lights pointed right at your face because they're all spun out of their mind on meth. Like, these are things that happen, and even the shows that kind of suck a little bit, like, still, man, they make for such great tour stories and such great memories. And when we're all sitting around together, when me and these guys are 75 years old, even if we're not doing the band anymore, I mean, I hope we are, but even if we're not doing the band anymore, we'll be able to get together and sit around and be like, hey, you remember that time we were sleeping in that parking lot in Long Island and da 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 da, or you remember that time that we were in Vegas and that guy came and smashed all our windows out and da 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 da. Like, we've got those forever. We've got those stories forever. That's like talking about elements of surprise. I think that some of the guys are happy that those days are behind us, and to a degree I am too. But I do miss the insanity and recklessness of like early touring days where we were really bad at it. Some of my best friends are people that I met on those trips, to this day, for sure.
Oh, yeah, and those memories are just so precious as well too. Like when you can look back and look at what you've accomplished, what you've been through, the positives, the negatives, all of that happens. I mean, it's so many things that you can learn from, and hopefully be able to better yourself, or just be able to look back at those times, hopefully fondly. And the fact that the band is continuing on through all the struggles that have happened, through all of life's problems that have happened, and going out this weekend to be able to do 3 incredible shows, being able to promote the new album, and anything else that happens in the future. I'm just glad to see that you were able to take all of this and be able to continue moving forward with the band, because it is such a great fun album that is coming out tomorrow, and I can't wait for everyone else to be able to check it out. Hopefully be able to make it out to the shows if they can, tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday, and anything else that gets announced in the future, because this is a band we're supporting, this is an album we're supporting, and it's just been an amazing time being able to talk to you about all of it and being able to get your insight into life and the band and the importance of shows and the records and everything that goes into what you do.
No, thank you so much, Josh. It's been really nice talking to you. I really appreciate your time, man.
Oh, not a problem. Before we wrap things up here, is there anything else you'd like to mention that I hadn't brought up yet?
Yeah, just keep an eye out for the record, the Front Lines of Good Times Volume 1. You can order it through Glory or Death Records at gloryordeathrecords.com or on their Bandcamp, or come to the shows. You will get a limited edition blank jacket, but we'll sign it for you. Yeah, so come to the shows, check out the new record. Also, next year, we're going to be releasing, also on Glory or Death Records, the 10th anniversary super deluxe edition of our live album, The Dirty Half Dozen. And then the Front Lines of Good Times Volume 2 will be along shortly behind that, probably in 2025. And in the meantime, look for us in Denver, Oklahoma City. We're probably going to get up to the Pacific Northwest and California soon. We're trying to get back out to Europe next year. So, wherever you are in the world, keep a lookout and get in touch and ask us to come see you. And if it's in the cards, we'll make it happen.